So we can start, and so welcome to all the speakers here, and welcome to all the public that will listen us. This roundtable, we would like to talk about emerging players in the European launch industry and the main challenges that the European launch industry has to face. So I would like to thank all the speakers here that are here with me. With respect to the program, there is one person less because Stella Gillen has had the problem and she cannot be with us here. Okay, I would like to follow the alphabetic order, and I would like to have two different tour de table. In particular, we had recently very important decision in Europe regarding the launcher sector. I'm referring in particular to the last CESA Ministerial Council in Paris, as well as the very important Space Summit that we had in Seville a few weeks ago. So having in mind what has been decided in these very important events, I would like to listen you, which is your opinion about the main challenges that European industry, and I'm referring to both consolidated actors as well as new actors. So, which are the main challenges? And I would like, in particular, to make reference also to the economic sustainability. So the main challenges that you have to face in order to be in the market that is day by day becoming increasingly competitive. So in this competitive framework, and taking into account the sustainability, because we have to take into account also the future, which is your opinion? Which are the main challenges that your industry has to face in the next? I would like to say in the near future, but also in the midterm future. And so I give the floor to Sylvain Bataillard, who is the CEO of Hyperspace.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll speak here as an emerging player in the industry. Currently, I think that in order to step up to China and mostly the US, the European policy regarding launcher really needs to be changed. But we see that it's currently in the process, because ironically, at the same time, the European policy is too strict, too rigid regarding institutional launchers through the geographical return, which makes it force people to work together where they do not want to work together, which leads to non-efficiency or reduced efficiency. And at the same time, regarding emerging players and micro launchers, there are a swarm of different projects, and Europe lets everything emerge and do not have. I mean, the institution do not have a choice on this, and they let venture capitalists and investors choose between those projects, whereas they do not really have sometimes the competency necessary to do an interesting choice. I believe that for the future of the space industry regarding launchers, in order to be competitive against the US and China, we'll need to have consortiums of industrials that wants to work together, which makes everything more efficient. And in that way, at Hyperspace, that's what we are doing. We are focusing on our propulsion technology, on our innovation regarding propulsion, but not on the operational point of view, on the ground segment point of view. And that's why we're currently working with Telespazio. It's because we want to, not because we have to. Also, there's regarding micro launcher, there are a lot of different projects in the world and also in Europe, and the great majority of those projects are towards the same rocket, the same technology, the same industrial means, and this leads to a dilution of the financial and intellectual capital between Europe, and it makes competition within Europe. I mean, a little bit of competition is good, but right now there's, I think, too much competition, and we are. It prevents us to have a competitive solution to step up against the US. So I really think that in order to be able to compete, we need to close the gap that is currently technically between Europe and the US. We need really a European SpaceX, but I think that we need to avoid to try to do the exact same thing that SpaceX did, but 10 years later. We really need to have a focus on innovation, on technical innovation, industrial innovation, and not try to copy what have been done, but 10 years later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as far as technology innovation is concerned, maybe this is more or less the topic of the second question. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more in the second round. Now I think that Enrico Cavallini, who is the head of in the frame of Italian Space Agency, is the head of Space Transportation and Space Infrastructure in Orbit Servicing Unit. So Enrico, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Augusto. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation for this forum and this roundtable. Yes, let's say in Europe, we are moving and let's say changing the way in which we are doing access to space and space transportation. And since, first of all, we need to react to the fierce competition, extra-European competition by SpaceX, but at the same time we have to consider that access to space, space transportation is a strategic sector for Europe to have a granted and reliable system of launchers that are able to respond to the institutional and commercial need. And let's say at the same time we have to move our system. I mean the way in which we are developing a launcher, but maybe this is something that we will tackle in the second question as far as understood the technological part. In terms of Italian, let's say, and the Italian Space Agency main pillars, this is something that we have done with the recent decisions made in Sevilla, and also with the decision that have been made with the funding made available with the National Plan of Recovery and Resilience. In which we are, let's say, pushing the sector towards new technologies, and at the same time consolidating what has been done since 20 years, with all the experience gained with the Vega launcher, Vega C, which pushed the more competitiveness, a more competitive product, and Vega E as well. At the same time, it's very much important to understand, and I'm completely in line with the previous speaker, saying we cannot just cut and paste other models, namely US models, since we are in a different situation. in which the market is different, also the balance among institutional market, the commercial market is different. And also the way in which the European sector is working is completely different. Nevertheless, we need to push. We need to push the system to be more competitive and to introduce more competitiveness along the supply chain, and to have a possibility to have to balance competition and cooperation, and to rebalance competition and cooperation in the sector, namely. In which to have, let's say, product that are at the state of the art and at the same time economically sustainable. This is something that is useful both for institutional side and for the commercial side, but with the idea that the sector is a strategic sector. That means we need to rely on assets that are reliable and available, and this is another point of attention very much important, which are dimensioned to the market that is the available market actually. And this is another point. So we strongly believe that in the Sevilla decision, there is a good compromise among pushing the system and at the same time provide support and provide consolidate, which are today the fleet of European space launchers, namely Ariane 6 and Vega C, which on which all the institutions, but also the commercial sector, will rely in the next years. If we think about all the demand, all the backlog of launches that have been already signed in terms of contract, institutional and commercial contract for Vega C and Ariane 6, which are in a good amount. At the same time, to move the system with for the emerging player, which can bring into the system dynamism and let's say way to work in a different way in terms of both technology, which more or less we need to develop for the future launcher, but also in terms of model, for business model and approach to development.
Okay, thank you very much, Enrico. You mentioned certain way the core of my question, in particular the different situation that we have in Europe with respect to what is the situation in USA, for example. So now I would like to give the floor to Marino Fragneto, who is Senior Vice President of Arianespace. Marino, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So I think I agree with what has been said so far. I think that the two main factors which should help the European launcher industry are, first, the fact that Europe should start to act as a country and not as a federation of national countries like it is today. Because I think that what we miss to compete with the US, China, and the rest, I mean, in a minor way with Russia, because Russia has specific problems at the moment, is that Europe is not yet a country. So when it comes to procuring launch services, we were discussing yesterday with some friends about it. We are always in competition with SpaceX pricing, and this happens either when we have to launch a commercial mission or an institutional mission. So the first problem we have is that there is not a European procurement approach, especially for institutional launches. This has allowed SpaceX to do dumping in Europe, practicing commercial prices for institutional European missions. So when it is a European institution buying a SpaceX launch, the price is a commercial price. When it is a US institution buying a SpaceX launch, it's a US institutional price, which means 3-4 times more. So, and this is the biggest handicap of European launcher industry, the fact that we are not supported by Europe itself. Of course, at the moment we have specific issues for Ariane and Vega, which are not allowing European Commission and the institutional agencies to launch European. We have to go to SpaceX. But what we see most of the time, we have seen a lot with Germany, this problem, also with institutional missions. But even with other, or I would not mention Italian Space Agency, but it also happened to the Italian Space Agency to buy SpaceX launches. So, and the problem is that this is the biggest handicap for the European launcher industry. Then, for what concerns the competition and cooperation, of course, I agree that we need a mix of it, because we cannot have a fierce competition in Europe, which would be detrimental to all the players in Europe. So we need a regulated competition in Europe, and we have to act as a country when it comes to procurement approach.
Thank you, Marino. Yes, we are not yet the United States of Europe, and we have a European treaty that define very well which are the competencies of the European Union and of its member states. So we are not yet at the same level of USA. And from a certain point of view, you mentioned a sort of Buy European Act. That is something that is...
I don't know if we need an act. Maybe we will need simply that countries should behave, thinking that they are European countries. I don't think we need a regulation. I mean, all the countries should behave knowing that they are European countries and they should buy European.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So when I always make the example of Sentinel-6, which has been launched by SpaceX, Falcon 9, 1.3-ton satellite, $98 million. And when the same satellite is launched with a European launcher like Vega, it's half the price. And sometimes the price of SpaceX is even 3-4 times the price of a European launcher when it's a institutional US mission. And when it's an institutional European mission and goes with SpaceX, then it's a commercial price, which creates problems to our industry.
Okay. Thank you, Marino. And now Marco Mariani, CEO of Saab Launch Services. Marco.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for hosting me in this panel. For me, it's a pleasure. For those who doesn't know me, I'm representing a small and medium enterprise belonging to the SAB Group. Our core business is focused on the provision of launch services to institutional and commercial CubeSat, as well as to commercial microsatellite. We work on European rideshare and piggyback mission, so we work primarily with, in cooperation with Avio and Arianespace, and so far we did 5 missions, 4 on Vega and 1 on Vega C. We released into orbit more than 30 satellites, mostly CubeSats. And so I would like to give the perspective of someone which is not directly involved in the launcher development, but that, I mean, is working with launchers since 5 years. So I pretty much share what has been said before. I pretty much share what has been said by Marino. For sure, we need a regulation for institutional satellite, which will be something that will, let's say, foster also the development of our launcher, and especially also emerging launcher whenever this will be open to them. Of course, we need to avoid competition on institutional, because otherwise it happened what it already happened with some of nanosatellite which went to Falcon 9. But let's say, to answer the question, which I think was on the challenges, I think that the challenges for the whole European industry at the moment is to have a satellite launcher which is reliable, which is on time, and which can offer a service comparable to what we have in the world, so thinking about US or China. When we think to SpaceX, I think we don't have to worry too much about the price, because what Marino was said is true for me. So this $5 per kilogram, which now became 6.5, I think is something artificial that you can find in those transporter mission or in some, let's say, specific mission in which SpaceX is dumping the price just to get customer, while then they have mission with US institutional CubeSat where they get back all the money. But what I think we need to consider about Falcon 9 is how they changed the perception of the launcher. So today, also commercial customer, or especially commercial customer, and I'm talking again about microsatellite or even CubeSat, they look for a service which I wouldn't say is like taking a train, but is like booking a cargo flight to move material from a country to another. So whenever we propose our opportunities with a piggyback approach, where maybe schedule is delayed, we are facing problem. So customer today wants, apart the price, let's say something which is with a clear schedule. So in this perspective, I think the main challenge, especially, let's say, not only for emerging player, but for the whole industry, is to have, as I said before, a reliable system, but also to have the capacity of providing the amount of launcher which are needed on time, to have access to launch bases, and basically to offer a service which is regular and reliable.
Okay, thank you very much. You mentioned you focus mainly on the needs of the customer, so it's very important to take into account this when we are defining launch services. Now, last but not least, Giulio Ranzo, CEO of Avio. And Giulio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Augusto. So thank you very much. Yeah, some of the reflection of the challenges we have in Europe. We live in a sector that has still a huge imbalance between demand and capacity. So there is far more demand to launch objects to space than there is capacity of supply. And so we are very lucky, because I think that until the end of the decade, this imbalance will continue, which provides opportunity, of course, to develop good solutions. And to some extent, I agree with what Marco was saying before, that the price will continue not to be a driving factor for a number of years, because the imbalance between demand and capacity is too big for the price to matter. But Europe is severely sick, and the biggest sickness we have is slow speed in decision making. And there is space in the market to do things, provided that you decide and execute and implement correctly. So nobody cares if your rocket is nicer than the other ones, provided that it flies reliably and very often. And this is where we have dramatically failed. The scale of what we do, and I say this, of course, with a lot of self-criticism, because we are part of the equation. If we were able to fly our rockets 10, 15 times a year, we would matter. If we don't matter, end of the story. So in 2012, which is the year Vega flew for the first time, Europe accounted for 26% of the total mass launch to space. And it was the second largest space launching continent in the world after Russia. In 2012, I'm not talking about a century ago, only in 2012. Today, Europe only accounts for 3% of the mass launch to space. And if we are good at execution between now and 2030, we will hopefully gain a 6% share by the end of the decade. So we will never, ever regain the position we used to have 10 years ago. It's gone. Why? Because we are extremely slow in decision making and in execution. We have a long debate, we have a difficulty in interacting between the private and the public sector. Decisions take forever, many parties involved, and we as industries, rather than focusing on ability to deliver at industrial level, deliver hardware on a regular basis, we have long discussion on funding and responsibility, who is responsible of what, supply chains imposed to be everywhere in a continent that is not under one drive only, and so on. And this is why, if we keep this slow pace, we will never keep up with how the demand is developing around the world. So for me, the biggest challenge to be defeated, that I see also as my company, is to completely change the speed of decision making, focus on delivering hardware and not look at all the other things that are around, not look for very fancy, innovative solutions. The industry, before innovative solutions, needs reliability and regularity of service. It doesn't need yet another new technology. It needs that the things come online and they are reliable. And this is unfortunately still far to be reached. It's very, very difficult. So to me, this is the largest challenge we face as Europe. The fact that we are becoming such a small and I would say irrelevant market around the world makes things more difficult. Because if we are so small as a market, it is difficult for 5, 6, 7, 8 players to succeed. Very difficult. Because the access to the global market with competitors that are very strong, it's 10 times more difficult. I often hear about SpaceX. I see there are also some other examples to look at that clarify what I am saying. In my mind, a good example is Rocket Lab. Why? Because they are a small company, yes. They did not focus on too many things, but delivering a product regularly as a service, something that works, okay? They have also had failures, very much like we have failures, but they have recovered extremely quickly, and they have come back to service. So at the end of the day, their focus was delivering hardware on the launch pad at the right time and providing a good enough service, I would say, and they are working fine. So if one fails to do that, then it does not exist. And therefore, we should look at all these examples, also those that are happening in China, of course, many different activities in China. Think about how many launches they did in 23. It's unbelievable. So over 60, I believe, this year. The US over 100, but over 60 launches. It means ability to deliver on at the industrial level on hardware. Whereas we focus very much on trying to develop yet another technology to do incredible things, and we lack the basics to even get to space. That's what I see. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I will go, and not the way most are going. And I think we really have to change. I say this with a lot of self-criticism, by the way.
Thank you, Giulio. Thank you very much. You mentioned slow decision making. Okay, maybe this is related to what was said by Marino. We are not a single state in Europe, so every and each decision require a lot of negotiation before they are taken. You mentioned also the European market that is quite lower with respect to the American one, and this is part of my second question to you, because okay, you mentioned also the gap with respect USA in particular, and I would like to focus again on the limited number of European institutional missions. So, taking into account these two elements, and again regarding economical sustainability, which are, in your opinion, possible new business model, and in particular innovative technical solution? For example, reusability. There is something that now is on the table since a couple of years, maybe more, and also human-rated European launchers. Unfortunately, we have only 9 minutes, so I would like to ask you to be very short, maybe 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes, each of you. See, I'm sorry, Sylvain.
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was me. Okay, so very quickly, regarding financial sustainability, is the launcher industry financially sustainable? That's a good question, because we are not really sure SpaceX is profitable right now. It may be as globally, because it charges 4 times the launching price to institutional missions. But I'm not sure it's sustainable, especially if we remove the internal market, which is Starlink. Giulio mentioned Rocket Lab. Thanks to, after the IPO of Rocket Lab, we saw that it was not financially profitable. That's why they went to a bigger launcher in order to increase their revenue. So. I think that in order to be financially sustainable, as Giulio said, we need to have nothing fancy, really simple technology that works reliably, and not to go towards always more complexity, to have the state-of-the-art, the perfect technology in order to solve the last 0.1% of performance. We need something simple that works, and yeah, that's what we try to do at Hyperspace, building a simple engine, as simple as possible, in order to be profitable, especially in the European market, which is not the same as the US one.
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvain. I remember the Augustine law that says that the last 10% of performance costs 90%. So more or less is what you were saying. Enrico, please.
Very quick. First, I think we have to have a fast pace towards new development. This is very much important. I mean, we have to change also the way in which we develop things. We Delta develop things. And so this is something that, for example, in all the Italian Space Agency program, we are pushing a lot. The second, this comes also with things that have been said before. We need products. We need, and so the development of technology shall be then fit the programs. At the same time, we have to prepare technologies towards the future, and this is the second point. Regarding, the main point is always to the market. As previous speaker said, we have a small market today. We are moving. We expect that this market is going to grow, and then because of the use of space, because of the space economy, and so on. And the point of reusability, we know, everyone knows that reusability has a profit just if it is really reusable. So you have a low cost of refurbishment rather than to have a new product, and it has a very high cadence. And so it provides also flexibility. It is not a case that we see SpaceX launching from the same launch pad every week, something like this. And this is something very much important. It provides also flexibility to the service. For sure, the techno is necessary just in order to respond to a demand, and that's a major point. Otherwise, it is if it is not suitable to the product that is suitable then to the market, it's just a technology pushing just for that. But,
Okay. Thank you very much, Enrico and Marino. Now is your turn.
I think it's difficult to answer in 2 minutes, but I think that unfortunately, when it comes to business case, the price is one of the main variables in the equation. So, of course, if the prices are doped because you have a competitor who's doping the market and is creating problem to Rocket Lab, because Rocket Lab delivers, but they lose money because the price that they can sell their launches is not the price they should be able to practice. So on one side there is a problem because of this approach of SpaceX, which is starting to create problem also in the US. So I think that the real problem created by SpaceX, which will probably come up also in the future because of even in the US, they are starting to have problem with this approach. So of course this is a problem for the business case. I think on one side, I agree reusability in Europe, I'm not sure, I've always been sure that it does make sense. Although we see now a big increase of demand, which shows that maybe we have been not sufficiently ambitious in Europe. We have been too careful on scaling our production means and also our approach not to use reusability because we thought that our market was small. Our market is small today because we are suffering problems with the delivery of launches, but it's small also because we have not been sufficiently ambitious. I don't think we need more regulation in Europe. Probably we need deregulation. I agree with the fact that the slowness in decision making is creating a lot of problems to the European industry.
Okay, thank you, Marino and Marco, please.
Yeah, I will just give my position on what you asked about possible business model. I think that we can work on business model. Today we see companies procuring 1, 2 launches or whatever. I think we could think one day to set up contract, let's say, for placing half of a constellation. So regardless on the amount of launches, we can add some flexibility to have better business cases. But I don't think that this is going to solve the situation. So maybe in terms of economic sustainability, a pillar might be to enlarge the field of service done by the launcher. So today we use the launcher to place in orbit satellite. And I'm thinking to the hardware that Saab Aerospace Czech Republic is developing for Avio. So this SSMS adapter, so this structure after 2 hours finished its job. So why don't we think about reusing a part of the launcher once in space to do in-orbit servicing, which is a market that will be established. And I'm thinking this especially on micro launchers, because I think that if it will not be for a dedicated launch, we will be limited by the size of the fairing, while we will still have spare performance. And since I think these type of launchers are addressed to constellations, I think that there will be a market also to say to customer, I'm going to that orbit to release 10 of your satellite, and I can offer this service to the satellite already in orbit.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. And Giulio, again, it is your turn to conclude.
Thank you very much. I have 12 seconds, so not much. But I think what Marco was saying makes a lot of sense. We are developing together with ASI and Thales Alenia an in-orbit service module that could be used, for example, on Vega C, and that has, in my mind, an attractive, innovative business case because it can deliver a payload to space while going up, and then it may deliver something else while coming back. For example, a debris removal service, which I think will be the business of tomorrow, what we could call aftermarket, because we are leaving so much junk in space that at some point will become a serious problem. I must say, to just complete this session, one thing that we are particularly weak in Europe is to talk about our very important successes. For example, the fact that we do not leave junk in space. For example, the Vega launcher does not leave the upper stage in space, which instead is the case of SpaceX. And nobody has ever calculated how much junk SpaceX has left in space. Of this we should be quite proud, and we should build a business of removing someone else's junk from space for a good price, in addition to launching something to space. So that's probably one business case we should think about for the future.
Grazie. Thank you, Giulio. Thank you very much. Yes, we have the time is at our disposal is finished, and I'm really happy to see how many people are here with us, and I hope that the conversation and discussion that we had with all the speakers that have accepted our invitation. I hope that the discussion has been really useful for you. You know that the European launch sector is at the center of a lot of discussion at European level, and so I hope that what we said today could have provided you a little bit the sense of what is happening in Europe. Having said that, I think that we can finish here this session, and thank you very much for your presence here, and to the speaker also. Thank you.